Hey, what's up? I'm Kite 0080 from Music's the Hang Up. In this episode, we're interviewing Zer0. He's a dark ambient vaporwave artist, and we talk about his experience in the DIY concert side of things. The reason why I want to bring this up is because I think a lot of people get stuck in the bedroom and they always complain about maybe their hometown doesn't have a scene, right? So in this episode, we're going to cover how you can break out of your bedroom and get into those concert halls. One thing that's completely different about this episode is it's almost like a music video. I put 7 parts, what is this for? 7 parts into this episode that kind of explains my experience listening to his music. So definitely stick around and watch this. They're about 2-minute segments each with 3D cameras. It's very interesting. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Well, welcome to Music's the Hang Up. Today we have on the show Zer0. So welcome to the show, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So hi everyone, I'm Zer0. I'm from Belgium, from the Flemish side of Belgium, close to the French border. In like offline space, I volunteer manage a DIY concert venue. But as a musician, I do experimental electronics as Zer0. And have been making music for about 10 years under different names, mainly as a Crucifix Eye before this, as a harsh noise musician. As Zer0, I've released on Sunset Grid, Power Lunch, Holloway Tapes, Seiko Mart, and some other smaller labels. And I mainly do sampleless vaporwave, usually very slow, dark, brooding, and with heavy influences from drone music, noise, and ambient.
Nice. Yeah, great introduction. How did you first get into vaporwave?
For me, I was super late to the game. Like, I only started listening throughout 2017, so I really missed like 2 whole waves of the genre. And then started creating in 2018, mainly through some YouTube music channels about obscure music genres.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you came out there and said, I want to start making music like that with the name Zer0. How'd you come up with that name and make that decision?
I had been like non-creative for a little while, basically due to all of my music gear from previous projects being in storage. And then at some point I was sick and tired of not making music, and I was listening to a lot of vaporwave at that point. The Zer0 moniker, I wanted some degree of anonymity, and I wanted something that was slightly faceless as a basic name, and in the same way that nothing is a good vaporwave name, I guess Zer0 kind of fit the bill for me.
Yeah. Even though you're a vaporwave artist, I would say that your aesthetic doesn't fit the typical vaporwave. It's more on the darker side. What inspires you as an artist to make that kind of music yet continue to call yourself like vaporwave?
Well, for me, the vaporwave movement, as I see it, was a huge influence creatively. I kind of see it as the very quotable punk for millennials, with no solid rules, but an ethos behind it and a very adventurous and iconoclastic approach to music creation.
You're one of the few vaporwave artists that's taken the music out of the bedroom and then into live shows. Why did you start doing that?
For me, it was a somewhat logical approach to music creation. Like I said, I come from the noise music genre. I think there's, well, at least there is still a basic expectation to bring your music live, enhance it to make it more intense, and to create a bit of an experience for the people who are there. And it seems more logical to me than to most people, I guess, to also do that when making this music, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you're sort of in on the live performance scene because you're part of like a DIY concert hall or something?
In my spare time, I'm one of the people in the management of a DIY punk concert space in my hometown that does about 100 shows a year.
Part of your aesthetic, I would say, is you've, at least through Twitter, I've seen you have a mask where you use your kanji characters. You use that as part of your public performance. Is that true? Or how did you start using that?
Yeah, the mask is something I wear, well, I have worn for every single performance thus far. For me, it helps to get into the right headspace to put a mask on or to put some kind of, outfit on to perform live. I did the same with some of my previous noise projects as well. And in this case, I wanted something that fit the aesthetic of the project, so trying to go back to that, slightly off-brand cyberpunk dark aesthetic. In this case, it's something I actually made myself. It's some LED filament wire threaded through the holes in a plastic welding mask, which I bought online on the cheap somewhere.
Oh, that's cool. I guess because you have access to that venue, it was easier for you to get concerts. But in those early stages, what is it like trying to get gigs as a vaporwave artist? Are you able to expand on that?
For me, it was, or it should have been, a lot easier than it's for most people, because I kind of know how both, like, it works from the booking side of things, and I've played a lot of gigs in the underground scene. In general, it's very akin to, like, most experimental or noise, ambient, like the really weird kind of music. But it's about contacts, it's about gaining experience, it's about networking, making friends online and offline, and letting them get to know your music, and then just hustling and grinding and proposing and trying to get on every single slot you can, in the hopes that some will respond and some will get what you're trying to do live, I guess.
Right. And what kind of tips can you give for other vaporwave artists that do want to do public performances?
What I hear a lot from musicians is that my city doesn't have a vaporwave scene, and I think we can safely say that no single city has a vaporwave scene, or every city has a vaporwave scene if you look at the internet. So it's about taking that knowledge and running with it, maybe teaching people what vaporwave is instead of just using their lack of knowledge as an excuse to give up. In the end, finding like-minded people, and if you're going to wait for a vaporwave scene to spring up, you're going to be waiting for a very long time.
Yeah, that's true. Right now in the UK, there's going to be a concert coming out, I think, next month. They've gotten together and decided, okay, they all live in the UK, different parts, but they're going to come together, trying to find a venue that will do it. And although the UK is a huge country, they're coming to one central place in London to have it. So it's like one of those things where reach out to the internet, I guess, at this point, because like you said, there aren't very much vaporwave scenes in a specific city, but you have the internet that you can hopefully find people that are close enough that you can try and do that yourself.
Well, adding on to that, I think what people tend to forget is as well that the music scene, even if you look at it broader, it's not that big. Especially if you're into weird music. There's a lot of former noise musicians in the vaporwave scene. That's something that's almost shocked me. There's a huge amount. I think it's mainly like I said, unconventional approach to music, trying to push boundaries in this case in a different way, but it's still, that aspect is there. And something I realized rather late into conversations with him is that me and Cat System Corp have actually met at some point, or have been an evening in the same venue, even though we live like 6 hours apart.
So have you had a concert with him?
I have performed for him back when Cat System Corp didn't exist yet, and neither of us knew what vaporwave was, but I guess that counts.
Okay, they get to that stage where they have a venue that says, yeah, we'll put on your music, you can come and have a show. Then how do you go to that next level to bring in an audience?
There's a large part in creating your own audience. I think with genres like these, it's a bit about preaching the gospel, actively explaining to people what you're doing, what the idea behind it is. And the fun thing about vaporwave and future funk is that it's such a broad range of music that you can, well, that combined with the ideology behind it, you can actually get a lot of people motivated, but it's gonna take some dragging and convincing to get people into the room.
Because I think a lot of people are probably worried, first, I have to get a concert hall to say yes. Two, if they even say yes, now I have to bring people into the room. And how do I do that to hopefully get some people in the door?
Yeah, concert promotion is still kind of old school like that. Yeah, one of the main steps in creating such a new thing is give it a name, something that people can remember, and just get it out there. And maybe your first couple shows will have no one, but if you're honest about it and you genuinely try to put on a good thing, then people will eventually figure it out and start appreciating it.
And the great thing about the future funk and vaporwave scene is we have the aesthetic that defines us already. So you could play on that aesthetic in your flyers or whatever you put up to draw people in. So luckily we have that on our side as well to draw that interest.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the one thing that always shocks people that aren't in the know about the genre, is how fully formed the identity is to some extent. Like, it's a full range of visual and the audio spectrum that's out there if you know where to look.
So yeah, starting to wrap it up here. For people who haven't heard your music before, what's one song that you would recommend that everyone here listening needs to listen to?
when it comes to what is the most classically vaporwave-ish, my release on Seiko Mart is sample-based, which is a bit of an exception for me, which is called Hageshi Nikushimi. That one made a couple of end-of-year lists last year, so that's a good jumping-off point for the more accessible stuff. When it comes to my more MIDI-based stuff, which is slightly more representative of most of my output, there's my album Black Magic, which I got pressed on vinyl, which is it's a fun trip. Like, throw it on, and if it doesn't bother you, it'll be over before you know it.
Black Magic can still be bought on vinyl, which we'll put a link to that in the show notes, as well as your Blank Slate Reflections is on cassette that's still available. So what else can we expect in 2019?
So in terms of live dates, I've got some shows coming up with Lusuria, which is a US ambient artist that's on Hospital Productions, for those who are into the darker side of ambient. So I'm playing with him in my hometown and then in Brussels, which are for now the only live dates I have set.
Yeah, and we'll definitely report on that whenever we do get more information. So is there any last words that you want to throw out there, talk to your fans, or anything else?
In general, I just want to say a huge thanks to this community in general. You've been extremely welcoming, extremely supportive. This scene gives me a huge amount of energy. It challenges me almost every single day with new output, with hot takes, and people from all walks of life, all working together to push a genuinely new music genre that's unlike any other in the world to new frontiers on a regular basis, and trying to describe how much I love vaporwave, and it's almost impossible to convey how much I'm enjoying this scene as it develops.
Congratulations on all the success you've had thus far, and I think the vaporwave scene is very grateful to have you part of it.
The pleasure is entirely mine.
Thanks, Zer0, for letting us play your music in the background. I hope you guys enjoyed that. He does have cassettes and vinyl still available if you're interested in picking that up. I highly recommend it because it's a pretty good price for a very interesting experience. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode for sure. It was very fun for me to make. I put about 20 hours into this episode alone, just the editing. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Music's The Hangup. You can also hang out with me on Discord. I'll put a link to all this in the show notes. If you like this kind of thing, maybe you're interested in supporting me on Patreon. I just set that up earlier this month. We now have a total of 500 people following me on Twitter, which is just crazy. So I know there's people that support this already. Maybe you want to support it in a monetary form. If you're new to this, I put out daily news for the future funk and vaporwave scene, as well as a Friday episode that you can find every week covering the latest and greatest in our scene. And then on Tuesdays, interviews. So if you enjoy this and you do want to support it, the Patreon is available. Thanks, Zer0, for letting us use your music and interviewing this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. Cheers.